Hey guys, welcome back to Quarantine Coffee and Jesus. We are coming to an end of the second week of our spiritual discipline study. I hope you guys have all enjoyed them. I think the spiritual disciplines are awesome. So right before quarantine, as an intern class, Jamie, Madison, and I, and then the other interns, we were all going through the spiritual disciplines, and they had really not been anything that I had ever studied in depth or learned much about. And so learning about them was so great. And then implementing, I haven't implemented them all, but implementing some of them has been just fantastic. I think my relationship with Jesus has really changed through them. He's leveraged the intentionality behind them and just changed my faith in ways that I never really had imagined. So I hope you guys are all enjoying them, and we have a whole nother week of them. And so yeah, but today we're gonna jump into the spiritual discipline of solitude. And solitude's a tough one because I think it's so hard to actually practice and practice well, especially in the American day-to-day culture. Even though we're just coming out of a season, or maybe some of you guys are coming out of a season of solitude during the quarantine, but I think in general, it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to practice because what solitude is basically being completely alone and doing nothing, and just complete, not isolation, that's not the right word, but just having nothing going on, where you can just spend intentional time with Jesus. And we see Jesus during his ministry here on earth. He implemented this practice, I would probably guess, daily. We know he began his ministry with solitude, and then he also ended his ministry with solitude. So he spent 40 days in the wilderness before his ministry kicked off. And then when his ministry was coming to its end, right before he went to the cross, he practiced solitude in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he was alone, just with his heavenly Father, and was just pouring his heart out, and was able to just spend some time with God as this huge event was coming. And I think during that time he got clarity and he was comforted. And even though it was still a really difficult time. And then we see multiple times throughout Jesus's ministry that he withdrew and he went to a quiet place and prayed by himself. Luke 5 verse 16 is one of those examples. Is after he healed a man with leprosy, he withdrew and he went to a deserted place and prayed. And he does this often, and I think it's because during Jesus's ministry, he was super busy. So many people demanded for his time and his energy, and he was constantly busy, and so he needed that time to rest and to rekindle that relationship with his heavenly Father, and just a quick check-in. Sometimes he went for a long period of time, other times it was maybe just 10-15 minutes. We don't really know, but we know that he did it often. And I think this is something that can be so hard for us as Americans to implement in our daily life. We are so busy. I know before the quarantine, I would go a 12-14 hour day and not think twice about it, except for I would come home completely exhausted, and I would literally just want to veg out on the couch, watch TV, or just go to bed. And I think in that there's a danger, because even though you're busy with good things, it can exhaust you, and it can distort your priorities, and it can make you miss some of the different blessings that God has for you in this life. Because I know I missed things. I missed good conversations like that I could have had with my husband, but I was just too tired, and I was like, you know what, frozen pizza for dinner, we're watching TV. Whereas like that night could have gone a lot differently had I just taken maybe 10-15 minutes to really engage with my husband and have like a good conversation. But it's hard because I was tired. So solitude is designed to give you rest for your soul, that in those times of busyness and different things like that, it gives you a place to go where you can spend intentional time with God and rest. And Jesus knows that we need that. And so that's part of the reason I believe that like solitude was created, is to give us just a moment of quiet and a moment of rest, and then also give the airspace for Jesus to speak into our lives, where we can talk to him about our day and remember the blessings of that day, and maybe reflect on some of the regrets of that day, and just give it all back to Jesus and talk through it with him. So yeah, I think also one thing I wanted to share with this with solitude is like being busy isn't necessarily bad. Like Jesus was busy. I know I said this before, but Jesus was never in a hurry, but he was constantly busy. And I think that's because he knew his priorities. And he wanted to give whoever he was with at that time his full attention and everything he had, because he knew in his ministry it was a very short amount of time, and he wanted to be so intentional with it. And I think solitude really helps with that as well, of not necessarily taking away the busyness, but the hurriedness of our life, the frantic, like, I'm going to cut you off in traffic because I have to get to my office like this so much faster than you, because if I'm late, whatever, I'm going to miss this deadline or whatever happens. And so just slowing down. And I think solitude helps with that, because it gives you some brain space just to be able to sit back, think through things, and then give Jesus the time to work and help you set straight your different priorities, and know like what's truly important in this life. So implementing solitude can be difficult. As I've talked a lot in this talk, it's hard because we live a super crazy life. We have a lot of really important things that we need to be doing every day. But just spending like 5-10 minutes and devoting that time to be alone, putting your phone down, closing the door, and just spending time with Jesus is so important. And maybe there's seasons in your life where that's all you can do, and that's okay. But then there's other times where you maybe need a half a day, or you need to go on like a week trip by yourself, just to rest and rejuvenate and just check in with God. So yeah, so that's starting it. And then like, how do you do solitude? It's super hard because it can be really weird just like sitting in a room by yourself, like, okay, God, cool. But I think it's really important to be very intentional about how you show up to your times of solitude. So, putting the distractions away, turning the phone off, different things like that. And then being still and quiet, and just quieting down all the noise that's going on in your head, the different conversations that you're having with yourself, the different to-do lists. I know that's hard for me, is to turn off like, okay, well, after this, I got to do the laundry and cook dinner and whatever else, but just quieting your mind. And then just talk to Jesus, invite him into that space with you. And just let him know, like, you're just like, you know, let me know what you want to teach me today. And then be quiet and let the airspace happen, and Jesus will show up and he will talk with you. And then you can also do different things, like maybe reflecting on your day or your week or whatever, and you know, realize, well, maybe I need to grow in this area, or you're like, I really, this moment was so cool and I almost missed it, so I'm so glad I took this time to like remember and think about it. Or there's other times where you may think of a situation and you're like, oh shoot, like maybe I need to go talk to that one person again, because, you know, whatever happened. And so there, you know, you might find some area where you need to go ask for forgiveness or slow down, or you ran over somebody or something like that. And then just talk with God about it. And just continue to like pray and thank God for all the blessings in your life. And that every day that his grace is enough. And, yeah, and it doesn't have to be like this big, long, huge thing. It can just be like a quick conversation with God, or it can be that big, long, week-long time where you do spend a lot of time maybe praying through a big decision or different things like that. So I think solitude's great, and I hope it's something that you guys can implement and start small. With all of these disciplines, because it's hard, especially when there's so many thrown at you. Start really, really small and grow from there. So I know things are probably changing for you all a little bit right now as our state is slowly opening back up. Just know that we're all here for you and we're praying for you. And if you need anything, reach out. All right. Thanks, guys.